Alright guys, make sure your calculator's open and ready. I'm doing a video instead of teaching this to you guys, so that way if you're having calculator issues, you can pause the video and I'll be walking around to help. So at any point you're having an issue, the calculator's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, pause the video and come ask me a question. Okay, everyone turn on your calculator and clear the memory before we start, because this is going to get kind of complicated by the end. So it's right here. You're going to push second plus 7, 1, 2, and you should see this RAM cleared when you're done. Okay, so the idea with what we're going to be doing, we started yesterday, we're looking at data. Sample data usually makes scatter plots, we'll have tables of values. So what we're going to do today is take a table of values and do what we call regression and make an equation. Eventually we're going to want something called the correlation coefficient. This is just going to be R and R squared. We will talk about what those are, what they represent tomorrow, but for now we just want to have it in our calculator. So before you do anything else, you're going to want to make sure this thing called diagnostic on is turned on. So go to the catalog, which right here just says press second 0, so second, and then down here 0, right here it says catalog. You should see this. It gives you a list of all the different things the calculator does. It's already activated the alpha button, so all you have to do is push D to get to the diagnostic pieces, the D letters. So you see right here where it says the letter D right here, so you're going to press that inverse button. Press the inverse button. So press that button, you should see that it brought you down to the D's, and then just scroll the rest of the way until you get to diagnostic on. Click enter until you see the word done. Okay, so I've got that going. Again, that just means that you've turned the setting on so that when eventually we get through what we're doing, these values will pop up on the screen. If you don't do this, then you won't see those numbers. Okay, so the idea is that I'm going to give you a list of information, some data, and you're going to put it in the calculator. So let's just practice this with number 1 down here. So it says we're going to stat and then over to edit. So push the stat button. It's right here. It's over by the arrows. It's already on edit, so all you have to do is just push enter. Now, if you've cleared the memory, these should be empty. If you didn't, you might want to go back and do this in the right order, because starting with an empty is going to make this a little bit easier. So you're going to put X values in L1, Y values in L2. So again, I'm just going to use this down here. So 1, enter, 3, enter, and so on. And then I'll just use my arrows to go over to the list 2. -3, -1, -1, and 1. Okay, make sure your table matches the table on the paper. And again, we're going to take this, and it's telling us to make a linear function. So we're going to go and keep that in mind and make a linear y equals mx plus b equation. So we're going to go and do our regression, go back to stat, so that same button you pushed a second ago, that stat button, over to calculate, so use your right arrow. And then you've got a lot of options. Basically, figure out which type of function you want. So this told us linear, and you've got some options. For linear, you're going to do number 4, where it says lin reg. If you wanted to do quadratic, so like I'll have you guys practice in a minute with quadratic and exponential, quadratic would be number 5, quad reg, and then if you scroll down, 0 is for exponential, and it says exp reg. So 4, 5, or 0 are the ones you're going to be using. So for the one we're doing right now, let's do linear, which was number 4. Click on that. You shouldn't have to change any of this, so you really should just have to push enter, 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 until it finally gives you the answer. It will remind you what a linear function looks like. Now they used a instead of m, so y equals mx plus b. Tells you what a is, tells you what b is. And again, here are these r squared and r values we talked about. If you don't see these, and that's what this right here says, if you don't see those values, then you didn't do step number 2. Go back and do that, because eventually we're going to need those values. Okay, so then what would you write for your answer? So they told us that y equals ax plus b. I'm going to round. They told me that a was 0.77. B was, don't forget that negative, -3.69. So if I put that together, this is what you would, I don't actually need you to write this, I need you to write the final function. So put all that together, so it's 0.77 for a times x, and then b is -3.69. That would be your linear model for this data. And then eventually we're going to have to write down the r's and the r squared, so I'm just going to get in a habit of doing that. The r squared value was about 0.962. Okay, and we'll talk more about what that is tomorrow. Okay, at this point I want you to pause the video and go back and try that with your exponential and quadratic. Do number 2 and 3 together real quick. So go back and do the same thing. You'll have to go and do your stat, edit. You'll have to go and do the next one again. If you want to keep clearing the menu each time, you can, but then you'll have to turn the diagnostic on each time. So actually, I'll go ahead and get you started on number 2. So go back to stat, edit. You can just type over these numbers. So I can go -2, 1, 2, 4. Okay, that's one option. Another option is to clear the list. So if you go up, you want to go to where, not just in the list, but up here in the title of the list. You go here and push clear. You'll see how it's cleared it out here, and then you push enter, and it clears out the list. So that's another option. Again, you can always just type over the numbers that were there. You can clear the memory. Oh, I didn't mean to put 11. Okay, but go ahead and practice that. Go do your stat, calc, and then this is number, we're doing quadratic, so you want number 5. Okay, so go ahead and try that real quick. And when you do, you should get that y equals -0.98x squared. That's ax squared plus bx plus c. And again, just to get in a good habit, we're going to go ahead and write down the r squared value, which I rounded it off to 3 places, 0.997. Okay. Again, if you haven't already, I would pause the video here, try number 3, come back and see if you get the right answer. Okay, here's the answer. You would get y equals, it's exponential, so you have an a value, and then you have a b value being multiplied, and then x is your exponent. So that's what I got, 2.67 times 2.05 to the power of x, and the r squared on that one was 0.989. Okay, so that's the basic idea of regression. Tomorrow we will do this with actual word problems so you can see this in context, but for today I just want you to practice the calculator steps. So this will be the bulk of what we're doing. This last little piece on the bottom is just for quadratics, which is not every function, so you won't do this every time, but there are certain problems that eventually you'll want to know how to find the maximum minimum, and we just haven't really done that, so I wanted to practice that real quick while we're at it. So again, I'm going to practice on number 4 down here. It's giving me a quadratic function, so go to y equals and plug that in. So I'm going to get rid of all this. So I'm going to go back to the home screen first. Go to y equals. I'm going to type in my function. Okay, so make sure you get your function in there, make sure it matches the paper. You're going to go to graph. So I can kind of barely see it up here on the top. As long as you can see, remember maximum and minimum means your vertex. So as long as you can see that little minimum point there, you should be fine. But at any point you want to adjust this window, you're welcome to. And we've talked about this a little bit, but here's a quick little refresher. If you push the window button up here, the X and Y max will give you, like, it'll zoom this way. Y min and Y max will zoom this way. So my graph was up here in this little top part. So if I could just move the graph up a little bit, I could see more of it. So I'm going to go to Y max and just change it to 20. I'm just making up that number. I'm just going to see what happens. Yeah, I can see more of the graph. So I'll leave it there. Okay, so now we're going to go to second trace. We've done this menu before. We're not intersecting because we don't want that. We want to find the minimum value in this one because it was opening down, so we want that minimum value. So I'm going to go to number 3. But depending on the problem, you might do 3, you might do 4, maximum, minimum. So choose on 3. You should see the words left bound. I want you to move the cursor, that little spider cursor that we've seen a few times. I want you to move that until it's left of your vertex. So my vertex, if I was to estimate, it's like right here. So I'm going to move until I'm on the left side. Anywhere on the left side, doesn't matter, just somewhere on the left, so that should be fine. And you're going to push enter. Okay, so now it says right bound, do the same thing. So move with your right cursor. Again, as long as you're somewhere to the right of where you think the vertex is, you'd be good. Enter. The next thing you'll see is guess. You don't want the guess, so push enter again, and it'll give you the actual minimum value. So in this case, again, I don't really know why the calculator does something like this before. So if you see something like this, that rounds to -6. So the answer is just -69 is our minimum vertex value. So I'm gonna switch this up a little bit. So it is -69, and eventually we can get into doing this with word problems. You'll want to know more specifically about the minimum y value, so really we would be looking at the 9 because that's how far down the graph is going. Okay, so just again for a visual of what I did in the calculator, I had my function. I'm trying to find that minimum value. When I was trying to go somewhere to the left, if you kind of imagine it like little axis of symmetry in the middle, anywhere over here is good for the left, and then anywhere over here is good for the right. Okay, go ahead and try that with number 5 down there. Now keep in mind the fact that you're doing the maximum means that you're going to have a graph that is doing something like that. You're trying to find this number right here. So when you get to the left, right, anywhere over here is going to be considered left, anywhere over here is going to be considered right. Okay, so pause the video, try number 5, and see if you get the same value I did. All right, and here's what I got. I got this is with a little bit of rounding, 4.6, and then 7.48. And again, the maximum value is truly that y value, but the whole point is I'm going to go ahead and put. Okay, that's it. When you're done, we have the notes, or we have the worksheet over on my desk, so you can go grab that to show me your finished notes. All right.